Thank you for tuning in to the Trinity Business School Postgraduate Alumni Success Series. My name is Kate Burke. I'm a Careers Development and Alumni Officer here in Trinity Business School. And today I'm speaking with Deirdre McGettrick, who is the founder of youfurnish.com and an alumna of the Masters in Finance. So hi Deirdre, thank you for joining me for our alumni series, our alumni success series. I really appreciate you taking the time to join me and to talk a little bit about your career. And also, we're going to get on to some very exciting the very exciting topic of your recent success with your entrepreneurial venture. So before we do get on to that, I would be great if you could talk us through and give me a bit of an overview of your career since completing your Masters in Finance. And you completed it in 2011, is that right?
That is correct. Yes. Well, firstly, thank you for having me. It's great to share the story, and hopefully I can give some interesting nuggets to people that are following on the Masters in Finance program. So in terms of my career, it probably is worth putting one sentence before what happened before I joined the Masters to put it all in perspective. And my initial degree had a work experience, which I did over in JP Morgan in London. It was 8 months in my third year, which I really enjoyed. And I specifically chose London because I said I would be working long enough in Dublin. So I was going to try a different city. Now, when I came back, I sort of studied for the law exams. I thought I was going to be a lawyer, and I started an internship with one of the law firms in Dublin. And it wasn't for me. It's something I discovered very quickly. I felt it was dotting I's and crossing T's, but all the fun of the transaction had already been had. And of course, I'd had a glimpse into that with the internship at JP Morgan in London. So I wanted back there. So the reason for doing the Masters in Finance at Trinity College Dublin was really to get myself back focused on finance, having worked in law momentarily, and then to build up that sort of credible brand name on my CV such that it would be really appealing for a lot of the banks that I was looking to join in London. And I joined in September 2011. And by December 2011, I had a job in London for their graduate program. So that was really exciting because I knew when I finished my master's, I was going to have a job. And of course, it took a lot of the pressure off for the second semester and doing the thesis. So after finishing, I moved to London and I started working with BNP Paribas. I joined their graduate program. It was a rotational program. So I did 3 different roles as part of that, which was really good to give you a broader insight into the different roles within the bank, but also to use the skill set and the different subjects that I had studied. And ultimately, that led to me focusing on corporate and acquisition finance. The other 2 roles that I had done was one as a credit analyst, and the other one was in their debt capital markets team, during which time I was looking at some Irish companies doing bonds for the likes of CRH, which was always good to be able to get on those Irish deals. And I also did a stint over in their Copenhagen office, which was a very small office of just 16 people. So all that gave me really was a really broad view of the bank as a whole, how it operated, and it enabled me to make the decision to go into the corporate and acquisition finance team. And I was working then on big transactions for companies that were acquiring other companies to grow. As a result of that experience, after about 4 years at BNP Paribas, I left and I went to another bank, HSBC. And there I spent over 4 years working on their leverage and acquisition finance team. So again, using the skills that I had built up on the transactions at BNP Paribas, but I wanted to add a new level of skills. So I had done all this acquisition financing, which I was continuing to do. But on top of that, then I was also doing leverage transactions and high yield bonds. So I was able to work with some really great companies such as House of Fraser, doing bonds for Ocado, their inaugural bond, which is always a more fun one. And I covered a full selection of clients as well before I left to start my own company, youfurnish.com.
Great. That's really good. And I have followed your career on LinkedIn, and I have seen that. And so I'm really interested. And as no doubt our current students, our incoming students, and your fellow alumni will be really intrigued to understand what was it that inspired you, or what was the key driver in taking that step from that really successful career in finance to then take on your own venture, which became ufurnish.com, which I've understand is like the sky scanner for furniture, is with the recent quote that I read. So really interested to understand that path and how you came to that point.
Yes, it probably wasn't where I set out in terms of when I first started working in banking. I always assumed I would try and work my way up into a management role, and that probably would have involved jumping across to one of the companies that I was working with very closely to do some of their bonds. So, for example, when you do a bond for a company, it's sort of a 3-month due diligence process where you're working really closely with the CFO, maybe the CEO, depending upon the company. And I loved learning the nitty gritty of actually how they operate. And I found that fascinating. And I always thought I would sort of go into one of these industries and try and work my way up into a management position within one of these companies. Then I bought my first apartment in London, and I've always had a lifelong love affair with all things interior design. So I was really looking forward to my project, and I really struggled to find the furniture and realised there was a gap in the market, because you've got lots and lots of inspiration over on this side from things you see when you're out and about in a bar, in a restaurant, on Pinterest, on Instagram. But actually, how do you source that product? It's completely disconnected. And what I found was that you had to go on a search engine and then individually search all the furniture retailers. So I thought, why isn't there an aggregator? Why isn't there one website where you can shop across the whole market, all the retailers, all of their products on one website? Just like Skyscanner, as you mentioned, or myhome.ie, I think is the perfect one, because it doesn't matter what estate agent group is selling the home. You just want the right home. And it doesn't matter whether it's sold by a one-man band or a big chain. You just want to see all the homes that are available in your area, your budget, and everything that's regarded to your requirements for the home. And I think when I had the idea around it, it was a bit like, so you've always wanted to run a business, and here's an opportunity not only to sort of jump in and run a business that's already established, but to set one up from scratch. And in the area that I was probably most passionate about, because I've always loved interior design. And I sort of thought, if I don't do this, I'll be kicking myself for the rest of my life. And it was a really tough decision, because you are leaving a very good career. You know, I'd progressed really fast through the ranks. Things were going really well. I had all my own portfolio of clients. But it was also at that moment that I realized that I can leave now. I can take that risk, as opposed to the further you progress into your career, I think you get a little bit more risk adverse, and the money becomes too appealing to say, I'm going to walk away from that. So it just felt like the perfect time in my career to really take a risk, and it's been going phenomenally well. So I've left banking, it's 18 months ago, it was April 2019, and I haven't regretted it for a day. It's frankly been a lot tougher than I expected. Maybe I came in a little bit cocky thinking, oh, I'm running clients, I'm working in investment banking, that's all great. But the pace of learning and actually of achievement is something that I get so much joy out of. And now that we've begun to build out the team as well, and I'm learning off so many interesting people, it's just fascinating.
Absolutely, and no doubt, I'm sure, as you said, it's been challenging. You absolutely have had success, and I wanted to congratulate you on your you being shortlisted for the new Entrepreneur of the Year by Lloyds Bank. So that's a fantastic achievement so far. Hopefully, you've had some celebrations for that.
Yeah, we did open the bubbles for that one, and you know it's really nice, because it's very hard work, and when you get something like that, it gives that element of credibility to what you're doing, and that little bit of external recognition is really well received. And I think it's a testament to not only what I've been doing, but actually as a team as a whole, what we've been doing and the progress that we've made. So it's really nice for the team to sort of realize that we've been recognized outside of ourselves as well.
That's great. And I would like to get you, I guess, what you would say to somebody that might be sitting in a similar situation. Perhaps they are, working within finance or another area, as some of our other alumni may see this. And they may have an idea, or they may have a passion just like you did with the design, but they may not have the confidence, or they may feel that they don't have what it takes. So what would you say to somebody like that if they were thinking about an entrepreneurial venture, but just don't yet have what they need to take it further?
Find a partner. So one of the things that, I sort of had this idea from furnishing the home, but I had no idea how to start a startup. And my co-founder Ray, he had actually joined a startup very early on. He was employee number 5, and they'd grown to over 500 people. So he'd been on that journey. So when we looked at it, his skill set and my skill set aligned perfectly to start to make the idea into something that was real. So I would say find a partner, because if you've got a co-founder, it will be so much easier. Pick that person very carefully. You will be spending an awful lot of time with them, and you've really got to make sure that you're fully aligned in where you want to take the business. But it's also somebody that's there to share the concerns with, to share the worries, to share the joys, to share the successes with. So look at where your skill set is, look at what you need to achieve. Talk to other people as well in startups. They're very happy to share their experiences, in my opinion, and from all the reach outs that I've done. And how did you do it? What did you do first? How did you go about it? And the more people that you speak to, the more confidence you have around the steps that you're going to need to take. And then from that, you can see what steps would you not be able to do yourself, and then try and find a partner who can supplement what you'd be lacking and get them on board. Make sure they're super passionate about it as well. That's got to be their baby as well.
That's definitely helpful. Absolutely, for sure. Great. Okay. And if any of our alumni or students have any questions, they can find you on LinkedIn or visit youfurnish.com as well, of course, to check out your venture, which is great. And what I'd like to do is just take a little bit of a step back and looking at the time that you were completing your Masters in Finance at Trinity Business School. I'd be keen to find out what things did you do, or what did you get involved in while in Trinity that helped you succeed in your career? If you can maybe share a bit of insight into that area.
Yes, I think there was 2 things. So I was very focused on what I wanted as an outcome from doing the Masters in Finance. And I think that is the first thing, to just make sure that you've got a set outcome that you want to achieve, so that you know what you're doing is going to lead to that. So I was very focused on getting a job in an investment bank in London. So when I started in that September, I had already spent all of August doing all of the applications, because they open from sort of August time onwards, and they're quite timely. So I wanted to get all of those out of the way. I also started work pretty much straight away. Maybe rather than in my undergrad, I would back-end it towards the second half of the semester. But what I realized is that if I was going to be getting all of these interviews that I so desperately wanted, it was going to be a lot of interruption during that semester. So I was flying over and back to London actually quite regularly. I actually remember it was before my accountancy exam. I was in London the day before. It was snowing in Dublin. The flights got cancelled. I got a last flight into Cork. We were running through the airport with this random guy I had met on the plane to try and get in a taxi, get to the train station in Cork to get the last train back up to Dublin. So, and then we met somebody on the train, and they gave us a lift from the airport back into Trinity and dropped me off, because I was living on campus. And the exam got cancelled the next day because of the weather. But I thought, oh my God, I'm going to miss my exam because I'm over in London with the weather and the stress. So it was around how was I sort of preloading the work to make it easier for myself. So I think that's sort of one of the things around looking at that. And then the second thing is around networking. Networking is so important. Use the alumni, see where people are working. And so I reached out to one guy. I remember he was working in Switzerland, and he was like, oh yeah, we're looking for somebody to start actually on this new position. I was like, oh no, I just started the Masters. I need to finish it first. But he had a position, he was willing to consider you, which I think is amazing. So use that alumni group, ask them questions, ask how they got through the interview process, because the more conversations that you have, the more it will put the bigger picture into perspective, and that will help you to get organized for what you're going to need to do as well.
Absolutely, and I would absolutely agree. We always do encourage the students and also alumni. There may be fellow alumni that are looking to make a career change, or break into a new industry, or move to a different country. And I think when it comes to networking, it's always good to start with what's closest to you, and the people that completed the same program as you and are working in perhaps the industry you want to break into is always the best place to start. So for both students and alumni. So that's a really, really great piece of advice.
And join everybody on LinkedIn, because you never know when you'll have that mutual connection. So, you know, the amount of times that I use that, like I'll email somebody, be like, Kate, I really need an introduction to this person. I can see that you're connected with them. Can you link me in with them? So connect with everybody that you meet on LinkedIn, because it's the connections of those people that sometimes can be more valuable as well.
Absolutely, yes. And you've already given us quite some good nuggets of advice there from a careers perspective, but do you have, I guess, a top piece of careers advice specifically for maybe the current students or incoming students at, you know, the time that we're recording, and we're in the middle of a tricky situation, you know, with COVID-19 and things like that. So would you have a piece of advice for them coming into the masters? Yeah.
I think it's trying to understand what you want out of the masters, and also have you sort of validated that. So let me give an example. If you wanted, like, I thought I wanted to be a lawyer. So, you know, I could have stayed in London. I had a job offer after doing my internship over there with JP Morgan. I was like, no, like, always wanted to be a lawyer. But when I got in, I didn't really like it. So can you get some work experience? Like, if you're lucky enough to even work shadow somebody for a week, you know, it's a free placement, but it gives you that insight. Do you like the atmosphere? Do you like the culture? Is this where your ambitions sit? So try and get those insights if you can. And then once you're pretty sure that you know what you want to do, it's really about networking, I think, and speaking to as many people, because the more people that you speak to, it's just the more insights that you get around that career and what you need to do. And, you know, often when I was in interviews, I could, you know, reference somebody that works in that company and how they talked about the culture or different programs. And it really validated why I wanted to work with that company, rather than it being, well, there's 10 investment banks, I've applied to them all and I don't really care which one I get. So try and really link it back into that person and create that sort of personal connectivity with them.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree. And that's what I picked up as well from your overview of your career as well, is that and what you kind of touched on there is that it's good to try something and then realize that you don't like it, or that it's not for you. Because then you know, and that's the, you know, in, you know, getting internships as soon as you can, and obviously in, you know, in the undergraduate or when you're in your undergraduate is great. But not to be disheartened if you try something and you realize it's not for you, that it's going to open up more opportunities and more doors for you. So that's great.
And leave on good terms from all of those things. It's not for you. Don't diss it. Oh no, I think your career is crap. I'm not interested in it. And if I give an example of that, I have investors from the law firm when I did my internship there. I have investors from JP Morgan, from BNP Paribas, from HSBC. I didn't burn any doors down, burn any bridges, sorry. When I was leaving, I kept in touch with people, and you just never know when you're going to come across people as well. So just, you know, your reputation is something that you can't get back. So just be very cognizant of that, I would say.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay. And so finally, just to I guess highlight the international reach of the alumni network. And what I'd like to ask is your favorite thing about working in the UK and in London specifically.
My favorite thing is probably my commute. I get the riverboat in London.
Wow.
And I go through the Thames Barrier, I pass the O2, and then I go around Canary Wharf and all the big buildings. And it's just that moment of sort of awe when you're going by, you know, Canary Wharf and all the buildings that are so sky high. And it's one of those things, wow, I'm in a really international city and I'm going to work on a riverboat. How cool is this? It hasn't got tiring even after 4 years of commuting that way. So that's one of my favorite things about living in London.
That's great. I never knew that. And I've never been to London, which is a shame. So never been. And I've lived on the other side of the world for so many years. So that's very shameful. But hopefully I'll get to go over soon. But thank you so much for that, Deirdre. I really, really appreciate it. And all the best of luck to you and your growing team at youfurnish.com.
Thanks, Kate.